Hello, everyone. I'm Tiffany Nielsen with Industry Insights Webinars Interviews. And with me today is the Chinese mobile industry rainmaker, Karl Weaver. How are you, Karl?
I'm great. Good afternoon, Tiffany, from the Pacific Northwest, pristine Pacific Northwest Seattle area.
Excellent. Well, we're glad that you're here to join us today. And let's get things started by hearing a little bit about your background. I just mentioned that you are the Chinese mobile industry rainmaker, but what exactly does that mean?
So for 3 decades, I've been in the mobile space, bringing and getting technologies designed into the Chinese smartphone, semiconductor, smart card ecosystem. And for the past 12 years, I've been involved in mobile payments and mobile device security with 3 of the top companies, Gemalto, now called Thales, Trustonic, and ARM. I was also with Rivets 2 years ago, and now I'm with bh-iot. We're doing really cool things. We're integrating cellular IoT with the blockchain via our bh-iot SDK middleware framework.
That's
And I've been,
great.
and yeah, I'm sorry. And then I've lived half of my professional career in the greater Chinese world. I speak, read, and write Mandarin Chinese for more than 3 decades now.
And tell us more about how you've enabled the design in of mobile payment and security technologies.
So I joined Gemalto in 2008 or 2008, and I was promoting near-field communications technology to really bring the concept of mobile payment on a smartphone. It really didn't exist prior to that, and this new near-field communications NFC technology was being pushed by Gemalto, and of course Philips was pushing it via NXP, which is their semiconductor spinout. 2008, I started to do that, successfully enabled the design in of that with our SWP NFC SIM card. And then they put me on another technology. They bought another company called Trusted Logic, and they put me on this technology called the TEE, the Trusted Execution Environment, which is embedded software security into the mobile app's processor chip. So I was actually wearing 2 hats. I had 2 business cards working in Beijing, China from 2008 until 2013. Fast forward 2013, returned to America, reinvented myself, promoting the TEE with Rivets for a short period of time as a consultant in 2015. And then 2016, I jumped into the eSIM business with a startup in Singapore. And then I joined another company, and it was bought by ARM. So I was pushing eSIM and something called iSIM. These are actually related to mobile device security. They're actually related to security. 2018, I jumped to Rivets Corp for 2 years, pushing dual roots of trust security. You need a root of trust on a mobile device in order to provide the protection in secure enclaves. In 2020, at the CES show, I joined ITOS, my current employer, to promote the integration of cellular IoT with blockchain via our SDK middleware framework.
And Karl, you mentioned that there are really only 2 types of security. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, there's security of the network, and in that case, it will deal with silicon chip vendors as well as Intel, ARM, and all the key players that are involved in server technologies, from software into hardware. And then I'm more focused on the mobile device side. As I mentioned, I work for Gemalto, Trustonic, ARM, pushing the protection of any kind of credentials in secure enclaves inside mobile processors, inside the mobile device that you're promoting. So there really are 2 different types.
And so with blockchain, I know it's part of your bh-iot SDK, but what makes blockchain more secure?
Blockchain is secure because it's immutable. And you can't tamper with it because it uses a consensus algorithm, either proof of work or proof of stake, but and also enterprise consortium blockchains. Typically, those are private. You have public and private blockchains, right? But the consensus means that they need to validate that the data is real. If the data is real and it goes through a consensus mechanism, that isn't necessarily a human being. That could be a machine validating all the data. That's number one. And so when you're writing the data into the module, and then from the module you're using 4G connectivity to transfer it into the cloud, to await an IoT server to pull the data and to extract the data to do something with it. The other element that is new that is coming on board is the addition of AI to refine, dice, and slice the data at the edge. Normally, AI is involved at the in the cloud space, and so an AI algorithm is usually applied to a cloud server, and it's crunching and using machine learning and big data to kind of analyze and refine the data. But it's now being done at the edge of where the modules and the sensors are, because it needs better security and actually needs to be cheaper too. And so it's being done now more on the edge, so that the data that gets refined at the edge and brought into the cloud, there's less of it that's needed, and it is cheaper because the cloud is not free. You pay for multiple devices and multiple sensors and multiple IoT machines that go into the cloud to process the data. So there are two good things happening, which is the IoT module is gaining more AI competence, number one. But number two, we allow for the data when it goes into the cloud, we actually take and concurrently and directly take the data that's coming from the cellular IoT module, and we bring it into, as a hash key, we bring it into a blockchain gateway, and preparing it for a blockchain platform. And so you do that with hash keys, because hash keys are what are used to write the blocks in a blockchain or in a block. And then from there, once the data is in the blockchain, you can't touch it. It's immutable. And if you want to change the data, you can, but you have to write a new block to change the data. So it's pretty much immutable. You can't touch it. You can't refine it. But going into the cloud, you want to make sure that the integrity of the data. So that's what we're doing with our SDK. We call it the boat. It's an SDK middleware framework. And so these are two major reasons why we feel that our solution will become the de facto standard, because it's being demanded by mobile network operators, cloud service providers, and the actual IoT device vendors themselves. So these three ecosystem players are actually asking for this in order to guarantee the data has not been fudged. Deepfakes occur all the time, especially with video content. So we're allowing the minimization of that risk. And then when you minimize the risk, you gain trust. So the blockchain is actually about gaining trust, but trust without monetization is not of value. We also allow, because it's a middleware framework, so we allow the utilization to monetize the data at the edge once it goes into the cloud, and then from the cloud into the IoT server. We allow brokers to actually monetize that data to do other things, like insurance companies, banks. They want to use that data for something called the sharing economy. So we allow that to happen, and that's where the value is. It's trust, and it can be monetized. So this is a very key point. We think the mobile network operators are coming around and realizing that they have more residual value after the deployment of an IoT project. They can now gain more residual value because they can actually monetize and work with other third parties like insurance companies, banks. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? If I own Tesla and I want to make sure my cars are really safe, what's the best way to do that? Well, bring it into the blockchain. Elon, Elon, stop worrying about your crypto and your Dogecoins, huh? Worry about the blockchain and your nice Tesla vehicles using the blockchain to guarantee that the data is not tampered with, to guarantee that the data is real and the data can be verified, and then you can monetize.
And so is blockchain a part of your dual roots of trust?
No, dual roots of trust was taking the SIM card and the TEE inside the mobile processor and having the data from both, we call it data at rest, splitting the data into two different secure enclaves on one smartphone. That was when I was working for Rivets Corp, 2018 to 2020. Unfortunately, Rivets kind of lost funding, and it's a great technology. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but security doesn't always pay because people and companies don't always want to pay until, of course, they get
Well, too
breached.
late. Yeah.
Until it's like,
And so
uh,
can you tell us one final tip on what you'd recommend for someone that's maybe just late in the game and getting started with data security
so
or
first
data
of all,
protection?
a very applicable solution or situation here now is that people are jumping onto Bitcoin. Now, I have nothing wrong with the utilization of Bitcoin because it's decentralized transfer from point A to point B. But the problem is the mobile devices that are used to store the private key with you have a public and private key pair with a Bitcoin, and the private key is always never shown to anybody. It's always stored and protected. The problem is you can't protect it on Android smartphones in the open operating system of the smartphone. Fortunately, companies like Samsung have come out with their own version of the TEE, the Trusted Execution Environment. They call it Tigris on their Galaxy smartphones, and so they're trying to protect crypto wallet private keys on their Galaxy phones, which uses the Android operating system. And Apple actually has their own SDK, which means that Apple will demand that the wallet provider that's on their App Store will use the TEE and take those private key credentials and not make them naked to the public, especially hackers, and secure them behind a security vault in the chip. That's what Apple and Samsung are doing, but none of the other companies are doing that, unfortunately. So I want to just make sure that people realize Bitcoin is a legitimate means for people to send currency, a digital currency from point A to point B. But the problem is, and of course, the blockchain is secure once it's in the blockchain, but before it reaches the blockchain, when it's on the edge, it's not secure. And not enough information has been told to the public. And the same problem exists with crypto exchanges. You can breach an exchange. You can hack an exchange. You can hack a smartphone. So you need tamper-resistant hardware security by taking all of this. Let's say a Bitcoin is simply data that's being stored, and you want to store it in this. It's software, right? It's data, it's software, it's metadata, and you want to store it in secure containers or secure enclaves in the hardware. That's what you must do in order to protect any kind of digital asset on the internet.
Well, thank you so much, Karl. And if they want more information on how to reach you, what would you recommend? I know you've got
Well,
lots of videos on YouTube.
I'd recommend my current employer, itos.io. That's aitos.io. We have a Chinese website, but I prefer people to go to the English website by just typing the name on LinkedIn. I also have my own website. I do lots of public speaking. I have about 10 public speaking presentations on the boat. And by the way, the boat means blockchain of AI things. That's what we call our SDK middleware framework.
Well, thank you so much, Karl. And until next time, I'm sure you'll be back on another one of our webinars again soon. So thank you and have a great day.
You have a great afternoon, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Thank you.